Okay, I will let Chair
Do you see it now?
Lyons decide when the meeting starts.
All right, well, my watch says it is now 6:30, and Sean, you can activate your finger. We'll call this meeting to order of the Public Works Committee. We have a quorum, so we can do business. The first agenda item we have this evening is minutes of April 12th.
This is Robert Burke. I would make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 12th.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of April 12th. Is there a second to the motion? Come on, folks, this is a bunny.
I'll second, Don.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and those minutes are approved. Second item is concrete repair, determination of deficiencies. Sean, you want to give us a little bit of an overview of this one, please?
Sure. This is, and maybe I'll just pop over to the map, but every year we do a concrete repair project. And this year it's area number 7 of 8. We should probably get cooler names, but we're in area 7. So Tom Weber, who is one of our engineering technicians, is the project manager for that. And he puts together a whole address listing of what sidewalk deficiencies he's seen in his walks around, and then which of them are appropriate for fixing either by saw cutting, mud jacking, of which we have none this year, or replacement. And so he's gone through that area and checked out what the likely repairs are by address. And then we have a letter to send out to folks. So we're looking at sidewalk sections that just barely fit within the budget, and we may need to do a little bit of management even within that if something else comes up, because a $3 buffer just isn't going to go very far. But this isn't a contract award. We've already done that. This is really just sending out letters to give homeowners notice that their sidewalks have been marked, that repairs are necessary, and if they don't do them themselves, the default position will be that we'll take care of it and send them a bill.
Sean, what is the difference between a replacement and a tree root replacement?
We have a policy that the council adopted a couple of years ago that said if a sidewalk section has been heaved by a terrace tree root, a city tree root, and it needs to be replaced for that reason, we'll assess half price instead of full price.
So it's only for city trees, though?
For city trees, correct.
Mm-hmm. Seems fair.
Okay.
Yeah, so Tom needs to make a note of those as well, just as a reminder that we're charging a different rate for that.
All right, committee.
And then how does,
Go ahead.
sorry, just one quick question. How does the homeowner take care of himself if he wants to? Does he notify you, or does it just goes ahead and does it?
No, they should be letting us know that either they or their own contractor will take care of it. We have a street opening permit for exactly that sort of thing, but Tom's really easy to reach, so he can just make notes, and then we won't do it. We'll go do something else.
This is Robert on the supporting document that is the actual list of locations. It's hard, right? Because it's like the house I'm thinking of in my neighborhood that has 3 or 4 lifted sections of sidewalk due to a city tree is not it in my mind. It belongs to one house, which is facing Voss Parkway, but the side it's a corner lot, which means that the sidewalk is actually on Middleton Street, and I just was having a hard time verifying that the 3 or 4 sidewalk panels that I'm thinking of on Middleton Street are actually on this list.
Oh, because it'll be by the house address, not by the sidewalk.
Yeah, and I didn't actually see it associated with the house address for what I think is the street address for the house on Voss.
You know what the
Okay.
address is on Vaughn? I looked at that too, Robert, because I walk over that piece of sidewalk and it goes up and down every time you go across it.
On Friday, I knew what, or Saturday, whenever I was kind of checking everything, I knew the address. If you give me half a minute here, I might be able to re-figure it out. Let's see.
I know the same sidewalk you guys are talking about. I walk
my
that
God.
very often.
It's famous.
Yes.
Well, it's so we have, the good news is we have these wonderful ponds in this area, both Strickers and Tiedemann. And this is right on the edge of Strickers Pond, which means it gets a lot of traffic.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
And those sections were replaced not too long ago, and they're heaved up. They're in good shape. You probably could just lift them up and set them back down in there.
right.
They're all heaved up and loose. They
Hmm.
operate like a teeter-totter when you walk across them.
I thought I was
Exciting, but not good.
right.
So it's right at that, are you describing the southwest corner, basically?
It's I would actually say it's the northeast side of Strickers Pond,
Okay.
and I've got it on my screen. If I can just zoom in enough. I would say it is 7401 Voss. Is that
Yeah. It's not on our list. No.
right? And that was concerning to me since it's one of the ones that is so obvious to me is needing to be on this list. So
Well, and it's marked because it's still marked from last year. It was marked last year and it didn't get done last year.
Yeah, and I know too that Tom had marked more sidewalk than our budget will allow to be fixed within this area, which is then typically caused to roll it over into the following year. But it sounds to me from your description like this can't wait and something else will have to wait.
yeah, and
This house is at the southwest corner of Voss Parkway and Middleton Street.
That's correct.
And the
Yes.
section of sidewalk is on Middleton Street.
correct.
Gotcha.
Yep,
And
it's right before the path for
Yep.
the.
Yeah.
Yep. So you got
Okay.
and it will probably, and maybe this is just part of it, but it's going to require probably saw cutting of the roots as well. Because honestly, the panels are in really good condition. I don't know if they can just pick them up, cut the roots, dig the roots out and put the panels back, or if they have to pour new concrete is my guess.
Yeah.
It obviously, and I don't know how that works when you're actually cutting roots and whether that requires additional collaboration with other departments within the city.
The city forester should look at it.
Yeah, typically Tom takes care of that if he
Okay.
thinks there's a question about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I guess I would think that this, even if something else has to come off the list, I think this street's been kind of waiting for repair of these sidewalk sections. I think 4 of them for long enough. I think this needs to be done given how many people know and walk this area.
Sure sounds like it, yeah. So,
And in addition, the crews are going to be there doing other sections on Voss Parkway and other sections on Middleton Street. I mean, it's
Right. So it's
right, yeah,
time-
I don't know where he drew his line or what goes into sort of the spillover, but I would agree that we can substitute that. So
Okay.
I would change my recommendation to say, that we're finding deficiencies abutting properties listed on the project spreadsheet, but specifically including 7401 Voss Parkway
Well, then,
or Middleton Street, whichever its address is.
yeah, the street is facing Voss, but it's Middleton Street is where the sidewalk is located. So if that would be part of my motion to approve kind of this sidewalk repair schedule.
Are there any others that folks know about that we really got to get done this year that we should add in?
Not that I am aware of.
Sounds like virtually everybody but me knew about this other ones.
Sure.
Okay. Yep, we can do that.
All right, so Robert, you made a motion?
I did make a motion to approve this as is with the addition of 7401 Voss.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second to Robert's motion?
I'll second that.
All
This is
right.
Dan.
Motion and a second. Thank you, Dan. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that will be our, well, we don't have to recommend anything. I guess that's just how it's going to be at this point, because it's already been approved.
Yeah, that'll just have us then send letters out.
Send the
to
letters out,
these
okay.
addresses. Yep, exactly.
Very good.
Pop back to the agenda here for us. That gets us to hiring a consultant for design services of the Middleton Beach Road and Mendota Avenue project. We had
Okay.
sent out requests for proposal to 3 firms, as it mentions, and we have excerpts in your packets, as is typical. Sean Alsrud, who is our project manager for this design, and I both read those, and our recommendation to the committee is to recommend to the Finance Committee and Common Council a design agreement with Veerbecker.
Sure. There was a pretty good spread in the pricing. Was there a difference in scope that you were able to, because I read all of these and it's like I couldn't really tell what the difference was, but obviously the price was different.
I think too, the really big difference I noted was that Veerbecker provided the least detail of the 3 by quite a bit, but they met the scope of the RFP as we put it out.
Sure.
And I know one of the things we'll need to talk about too is what is the scope of the RFP, because I think to some degree it's been modified by the council now. And I noticed that there was a significant difference in the hours. So if you go to the overall time that a consultant is saying that they're putting in on this, Veerbecker had much fewer hours than the other 2, I would say, SEH and AECom. So I don't know if they have some efficiency. I don't know if they missed something in terms of their internal hours. Their overall design number of hours seemed in the right ballpark. So I couldn't tell either if they just, if internally they missed something, but the scope says they'll do it. And
Sure.
that's usually my overriding concern.
Right. And then the only other question is what you mentioned before is that the Common Council made it clear, I believe, that the one-way street or turning Mendota into a one-way street was, I think, kind of ruled out at the Common Council level.
I think that's the effect of it. It was shared. Ginny Corwin. Well, in fact, she's here this evening, but she shared with the Common Council a preference on behalf of the neighborhood that any connection of Middleton Beach Road at Lake Street not be considered for permanence. And one of the design options that the Public Works Committee had asked of the consultant is in terms of trying to keep the pavement narrow and provide a parking lane to make the rest of Middleton Beach Road north of Mendota Avenue one way. But that would require a permanent connection at Lake Street to effectively function as one way. So I think the fallout of what the council has put into the motion of approval of the 5-year street plan precludes a connection of Lake Street and Middleton Beach Road.
Which then, as you said, if there's no connection there, one-way streets are pretty much off the table as well, because you can't have a one-way street into a cul-de-sac where you get a little bit of a pileup of cars.
After everyone leaves, no one can go back home.
So with that being said, I'm fine with that, obviously. And I guess that the only reason I bring that up is that it does change the scope a little bit, in that we were asking some of these companies to look at 2 options, and that one of the options is no longer really an option, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, so the committee may want to think about a different concept for preliminary design that you would like the consultant to look into. Otherwise, effectively upon hiring, we're going to have a conversation about if there is no second preliminary design option, what sort of savings would we have to the contract?
My concern on this is listening to the public and hearing the public, seeing that memo that came out, that as I read this, I thought, do they have enough money in their proposal to do the job, regardless of whether it's one way and tying into Lake Street or not? That would be my only concern. And it's a time and materials contract anyway. It's not a lump sum.
It's cost up to a limiting fee is what it is.
Well, a limiting fee, correct, but which is time and materials up to that limiting fee.
That's right, exactly. So, if we as a committee end up changing the scope and the finance committee and council agree, we could pursue an amendment at some point. But I think we're kind of in the opposite boat right now. Is we were looking for 2 preliminary design options, but one of them is no longer viable.
What you're saying is the council has already changed the scope. We don't have to change the scope. They've already done it, right?
It's been reduced, or at least an opportunity now exists for a different concept for preliminary design.
So why would we need to do anything then except inform the consultant that is selected that this is what has happened and that's how they should proceed accordingly?
Yeah, we
How
don't.
they're designing any one way.
I think that's, yeah, absolutely. We should do that. If no one's interested in pursuing it, there's little point in designing it. I guess what I'm saying is we have in the scope to prepare 2 preliminary design alternatives, and we only have one viable one identified now. So we can stick with that. I'm fine. Or if the committee wants to give it some thought, we could come up with a different one that you're interested in, because it's already in the scope to look at 2. And we don't have to do that tonight. We're just here trying to hire a consultant. That's all.
Can I ask a procedural question?
This is Ginny.
All right. Can't hear her now.
Let me just check the sidebar.
He's on mute.
Oh yeah, Ginny, do you want to unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Mhm.
Can I ask a procedural question? Can you at least document in the minutes of this meeting that one-way design option will not be followed through on, or that you're, in a sense, going to tell the contractor that they do not have to do that, so we have a record of it from Public Works Committee? As I understand it, Public Works originally requested that option be added. So can you at least document for us that you're taking that option out of the RFP, even if it's not formally
Well-
rewritten.
It's a good question. We can't modify the RFP. That's already been issued. The proposals came back. We don't have a document to modify right now. We just have proposals, and we're hoping to recommend to the council acceptance of an agreement with one of these firms. It could be that if the committee said, well, we're not interested in having 2 design concepts at the preliminary stage to look at, they could say that, and we would write the agreement to say that we've modified the scope only to allow 1 preliminary design.
I
But if
think
they
what I'm
wanna-
asking is, can you at least document that in the minutes for us?
I'm not sure
So
what,
it's on the record that you're not asking this contractor to follow through on the one-way design option.
I think it would be
council has
easy
already
enough.
made that decision. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what we say at this point about that.
Could I make a motion that we only direct the company, choose Fearbaker as the designer, and that he is only to work on one design option, which has a 2-way street from Middleton Beach Road and no connection to Lake Street?
I would suggest that it be changed to no permanent connection to lake since,
Yeah,
yeah.
no permanent connection.
I would second that motion.
All right, we have a
And-
motion and a second. Committee, any further discussion or any discussion on the motion?
Well, let me clarify here then, because ordinarily, we're not trying to define the scope of the agreement while recommending hiring a consultant. But I admit we're in kind of different territory on this one now. So is what you're recommending, Susan, that we recommend to the council entering into an agreement with Bierbecker for these services at this cost with a scope amendment?
Yes.
All right.
And I'm hoping that will satisfy, I don't remember the lady's name, but Middleton Beach Road residents, that we're not going to make it a one-way street, and that it's documented, at least in the motion, that that's what we're thinking.
All right.
Thank you. Yes, that would help. That would meet, I think, our neighbors' best interests, doing it that way. Thank you.
All right, committee, any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to, I got a question on, AECom talked about the need to do a wetland determination.
Mhm.
I didn't
Delineation,
specifically,
yeah.
I didn't specifically see that in the other ones. And I might have missed it, is Verbacher part of that? Are they on board with that?
Yeah, they had a
Yes.
consultant listed for that. Or it might have been their own person, I forget offhand. I'm just going to try to skip ahead to where they had the scope.
Just saw wetlands in there. As you
Yeah,
flew
I saw wetlands too.
Wetland delineation is in here.
Oh yeah, wetland delineation. Okay.
All right, any further discussion or questions? Are you ready to vote, committee?
Sure.
Sounds
Did
like it,
we have
all
a s-
right. Those,
Sorry, did we have a second?
Robert
Yeah.
seconded.
Robert
This is
seconded.
Robert. I seconded it.
Susan made the motion and Robert seconded it.
All right, I missed that. Thanks.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that's what we will recommend to the council.
All right.
I think that brings us to the end of the agenda.
Except for
Carrie.
the.
I guess I had one question now that the motion has been adopted. I should have asked it earlier, I suppose. The $49,000 price tag now should go down somewhat, you think, Sean, because they are only going to have to decide one alternative?
Well, unless you have a second alternative that is a two-way
Yeah.
traffic flow. I think all we've done is discounted a one-way traffic flow as an option. But we haven't necessarily limited it to one option.
Okay. Do we have any difficulty in effect modifying the scope of the services that we're asking for with the other two consultants who bid on something different? I mean, can they argue that having, had we known that you were only going to look for one alternative, our pricing might have been significantly different?
Bob, I would suggest that none of them had that information, and this 49,005 cost not to exceed is not predicated on the idea of only doing work for one option. So I hear what you're saying, and it's a good question to ask, but I would say it would be bad practice to like reopen up the quoting process or anything like that at this stage, based on the fact that I think all three groups quoted two alternatives, and what we're saying is we're striking one of the alternatives we told them to do, but Sean is correctly stating that they could come back and still give us two alternatives. It's just that neither alternative will be related to a one-way street. Right.
Okay, that's fine.
And I would say too, this isn't like a public bid. That has really strict statutory rules to it. You know, thou shalt hire the lowest qualified bidder. Professional services aren't like that. So
All right,
there are
fine.
always some changes that happen. In fact, sometimes we don't ask for the lowest priced consultant. You know, we're looking for the best overall value as best we can determine that. So.
All right, anybody have any other business, any other comments? If not, I think we're ready for an adjournment motion.
I'll move to adjourn. This is Dan.
All right, is there a
This is
second?
Carl, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, thank you. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
Only
you.
28 minutes. That's a great timing.
We should be able to do that every meeting, you think?